Right now I have to stop saying Right now I have to stop saying
Get ready, boys.
correctly, then you can get a gift card to the merch store for the same amount. Original order. Here's the thing. You must click our link. It's in the chat on YouTube, also in the show notes, which is the description, to bet and get your gift card. We are putting down for today, will Wyatt Johnston score a goal in Game 3 against the Jets? So you obviously have to make this bet, if you haven't done it already, in the next half hour or so. Again, for all the ball knowers out there, make your pick and place an order. If you pick correctly, you get a gift card from us for the same amount as your order. That's the ball knower bonus. Please welcome our two-time Stanley Cup champion, Craig Ludwig, who's sitting to my right. Maybe your left on the screen, depending on how you're looking at it. Maybe you've got it flipped. Who knows? And then our producer, John, is here as well. John is busy making sure that things don't light on fire and everything's connected.
As everyone in the chat pointed out, there was no audio until now.
Nice.
It's fixed, but we need to do that intro read again because it did not go over the air.
All right.
By the way, the fix was to unplug it and plug it back in, everyone. The Craig Ludwig method.
I mean,
of
unplug and reset,
I'm
right?
just happy it's not me that screwed something up this
Well,
time.
do you want to play the music and we'll do it all over again?
No, you can just read it.
Oh, all right. Well, the DLLS Stars Pregame Show, our Stanley Cup playoff coverage is brought to you by Bud Light. Bud Light, easy to drink, easy to enjoy, enjoy responsibly. And by Happiest Hour, your home base and the best place to catch the NHL playoffs and cheer on the Dallas Stars. Just steps away from the AAC, the ultimate spot with 50-plus beers and over 40 televisions for all the big moments every single game day. Happiest Hour, your favorite spot for the Stanley Cup playoffs. And if you were completely on silent, which it sounds like you were, when I did the ball knower bonus, you have about a half an hour left. What you have to do is fairly simple. Make a pick through one of the links. It's in our chat on YouTube, also in the description. Make a bet. Do you think Wyatt Johnston will score in Game 3 or not? If you get it right, you also have to place an order to the ALLCITY merch store for at least $25. If you pick correctly, you will get a gift card for the same amount of your original order. That's the ball knower bonus. Good luck. You only have about 30 or 40 minutes before the game gets ready to start, and I would imagine you can't do it after that. All right, he's Craig Ludwig. John Andersen is keeping us afloat. And
Can they hear us now?
Okay.
Okay.
We're going as if that's
All
the
right.
case. And then Sam Nestler, who is thrilled that he got to hear that read twice. Sam at the AAC with all kinds of news because you were on location when Pete DeBoer met about 50 minutes ago. So what did Pete have to say? This was the first chance for us to hear from him before the game today because there was no morning skate.
Yeah, first and foremost, I hope the Stars are more ready than DLS because you guys were muted. My light snapped, so I have no light today. And one of my headphones is broken, so I'm only on one headphone.
Wow.
So
I'm the most
DLS
organized
crew
guy on the show
Yes.
today.
playing on one leg.
Don't even
And
say
you
that.
have your own story.
I didn't do this.
Yeah, well, that's right.
I think there were squirrels in here. Yeah, and Lud somehow his car's missing. So we've had a tough day over here. But I will say Pete actually met us in the Mavs practice basketball court, which I did not even know existed until today. Colin Blackwell actually came in to shoot some free throws while we were standing in there, which I'm assuming is part of his pregame routine, as we know he's a big basketball guy. So funny enough, with that, Pete said that Colin Blackwell will come in today for Oscar Beck. We know that happened after game 1 last series against Colorado. We all know what happened when he came in. He scored the overtime winner and then was a mainstay throughout the series. And really the only reason he's been a scratch the last 2 games is because Jason Robertson came back from his injury. So for Blackwell, I think it's well-deserved. He has only provided this team positive things when he's been in the lineup through regular season and last round in the playoffs. So he'll come in. Oscar Beck will be the scratch on the forward group. Same lineup other than that. Obviously, Jake Oettinger's in net. For me, Blackwell brings a little bit more speed, as we know. And he also, Beck's a bigger guy, got the reach. They're both good at penalty killing. But for me, Blackwell just has a little more of that edge of going into every single battle and just finding a way to come out with pucks. He just wins battles. And that, along with the speed and maybe a little bit more offense, I think it will provide a jump for Dallas here today. So that's the only change. We all know Miro Heiskanen is still out. Guys, in my opinion, as we talked about on our last watch along, he may not play this series. And Pete did say he's going to play this series, but Pete also has said multiple times, guys are day-to-day, guys are going to play soon, guys are very close. I'm not sure if there's a setback there or if it's just something that the process has been going along and maybe slowed down a little bit. But we are not going to see Miro Heiskanen today, so no reinforcements. But for me, on the front side, I personally would change the lines up a little bit. They could easily just put Dodonoff on the left of the fourth line and put Blackwell in on the right if they wanted to keep everything the same. I'd love to see kind of a more traditional Robertson, Hintz, Rantanen, Marchment, Duchesne, Sagan, and then either Ben or Granlund on that third line left wing and kind of go from there. But I'm not sure if that's what we'll see from the start. I know Pete has a mark on his lines where if they get to a certain point, he's going to put them in the blender, as we've seen before. So kind of things to look out for today.
So, Sam, when you talk about the seeing of lines changing, does that go against the thought that Pete said post-game? And then we're going to play some clips about some interesting interactions he had with the media after game 2 in Winnipeg. But that he seemed to feel as though if they got 1 goal in game 2, the momentum could swing and they were right in it.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? It's not changing things up because anything's wrong. It's just you haven't necessarily seen a lot from that Ben, Sagan, Duchesne line. You haven't seen a ton from Rantanen's been amazing, but he scored a lot of his goals on different lines as well. It's not like all of the goals are coming from Granlund and Roope Hintz. He scored with pretty much every line he's played with. So I don't think you want to rely too much on that in terms of what you're looking at. But Pete backed up again when he said what you're talking about. He said today, if you look at the analytics, 5-on-5, we did a good job. We created. I was showing Luds during our post game. I was surprised with the possession stats and the analytics below kind of the eye test that Dallas actually had pretty good numbers in terms of possession, creating some chances, getting shots from different areas. I think the key here is just to make that a little bit more consistent and to get a little bit more into those tough areas, right? They created a few chances, but a lot of them didn't turn into golden scoring chances other than the 2 or 3 that we talked about, like the Dodonoff chance in tight, the Jamie Benn tip from the side of the net. But I think for Dallas, it's more about getting that mucky plays to the net, getting bodies to the net that we saw them take over against Colorado and start to just push them back, really, really make Hellebuyck have to see through traffic and test out a guy who has really struggled in the visiting arenas in the playoffs so far.
The last thing I have for you today is the atmosphere, right? They just spent 2 games over a couple of days in Winnipeg. Great crowds, obviously, the whiteouts, the Kyle F. and Connor. Well, let's not call him Kevin, but the KFC buckets, that was pretty funny. I saw pictures of some guys wearing wedding dresses, calling themselves the brides. I don't even know the backstory of it, but they've been showing up for playoffs. We've seen the Jared Bednar impersonator and other very notable things in Dallas. That's the fun of it. Are the Stars they have to be looking forward to getting a couple of games at home and using the crowd to their advantage?
Yeah, and they stole home ice advantage, right? It doesn't feel like a huge positive because you look at that 2-game split and they got beat up in terms of the scoreboard in Game 2 in Winnipeg, but they found a way to win that Game 1, and it doesn't change a whole lot if you win Game 1 versus Game 2. The fact is they went into a really tough environment, one of the better arenas to play in as a home team, and they found a way to get a win in Game 1. So now they come here. Their job is pretty simple. If they can win their 3 home games, they can win the series. That's home ice advantage at its finest. And Pete Moore talked about how home ice advantage is really at its peak in Game 7s. We saw what it looked like here against Colorado in Game 7. Dallas would love to not make that be a part of the series. Find a way to win these games in the next 4 here. Force it to 5, maybe 6, and win the series there. Don't let it go back to Winnipeg in a Game 7. But for here today, I mean, it's a weird day, right? It's a Mother's Day. It's a 3:30 start. Happy Mother's Day, by the way, to everyone, all the mothers out there. But it's a weird timing start. Yeah, I almost didn't have it there, eh? But it's a weird timing start. It's an afternoon. We haven't seen an afternoon game in here in quite a bit. I don't expect it to change at all. I think inside of this arena, it's going to be very loud, and these fans are very excited to have another round and another opponent to harass. And I expect some Connor Hellebuyck chance, especially if he allows a goal early.
All right, Sam. Well, good luck over there. I hope that you don't break any more equipment between now and puck drop, but we will definitely talk to you post game. So I just say this, Luds. I don't know if the lack of a light really affected his appearance at all on our show today.
I think he looks better.
Yeah, I tend to agree.
No matter what.
I'd keep the look, Sam.
Hot Sam. Lights are not needed. Thanks, Sam.
Thanks, guys.
Luds, let's talk about matchups for a minute, because that's something that was a big deal in Winnipeg, was getting Adam Lowry out there against the finish line, the Hintz, Rantanen, Granlund as much as possible. That's not always going to be the case for Winnipeg today, because today and for Game 4, they don't have last change. How does that change how Winnipeg goes about it and how the Stars will maybe get some better looks with that group? Or do you think they keep that group together?
Yeah, I mean, if it were me, I wouldn't be waiting long. I'd be getting the NSYNC boys back together, the Beastie Boys, or whatever they're calling their lines. I mean, I would.
That's what
I
Ike
would
is
not,
trying to get him to call.
If he doesn't start that way,
You're trying to get Marchment, Duchesne, and Sagan together.
and I would be putting Robo up on the left side.
Mhm.
That's and Granlund can go down there and put Jamie and Wyatt back together. I just, now you're at home. You have the advantage of the matchups if you want that. They always say we can just roll our lines and things like that, but and again, we know what Pete knows what they're trying to do. Right now, I think you're at home. I think we saw the chemistry with Robo. To me, what I saw at a Robo last game, he can get up there and play. And some of those chances that are around the net that Rantanen and Hintz can create, Robo can finish on them. And again, it's not taking anything away from Granlund, but we know that Robo can finish better than he can. And I would expect, let's go back to double shift in Rantanen. Let's get him out there. If you want to keep him away from one guy, there's ways to do that. So, and I do think there is the chemistry with the other three, the three amigos there. I think they're a good group, and we'll see how it plays out. And again, like everybody said, maybe he felt they weren't that far away, and he starts that way, and he uses that change for later on.
We talked about the possibility of at the post-game show the other night of maybe Blackwell in for Beck. There's not a lot of changes you can make, right? They have plenty of depth in the minors. They're playing their own AHL playoffs. So, but if they really needed somebody, they can get them. But as far as the guys available and what they have, that's not a terrible move. And it's nothing against Oscar Beck. He's fine. But there is more of an offensive tilt to Blackwell's game.
Oh, yeah. He's more noticeable around the front of the net. He creates more. He's a shift disturber. So I got to
nice pause.
Make sure so you
enunciated
get that
well.
Clearly. I know we're on Victory Plus, so I got to make sure now. But no, he creates things. There's always something going on around Blackwell, especially in front of the offensive net and in the corners. And he's like one of those ever-ready bunnies, right? He doesn't stop. He keeps on going, and he's got a shot, and he does a lot of little things. He can kill penalties with probably a little bit more speed. Not taking anything away from Beck, but I think he can add a little bit more to the offensive side of things, which is where I think they need a little jump here.
All right, up next, we have some interesting clips from Pete post-game of Game 2 that was a little testy. I think we got to talk about it next. Here's the DLS Stars pregame show rolls on.
So if you're headed to the Stars game, there's no better pregame or postgame spot than Happiest Hour. Grab a beer, devour some apps, then walk across the street and catch the game. Happiest Hour, as Owen said, brings the playoff energy with 40 TVs, a jumbo LED screen that turns game nights into events. Packed patios and skyline views with plenty of Stars fans. Happiest Hour doesn't just do apps, they do team happy-tizers. The Ferris wheel of wings, a jumbo pretzel, nacho tower, and more. And that to a full menu of game day favorites, and you've got a great playoff spread worth cheering for. Happiest Hour has 50-plus beers on tap, signature cocktails, frozen drinks, and beer towels for the tables. Join us for Happy Hour from 4 to 6 p.m. on weekdays and score half off apps and signature cocktails. It's the best value play in Victory Park. Whether it's a weekday or weekend, Game 7 or not, the off-season Happy Hour is our favorite spot. Check them out right down the street from AAC.
Let's talk about Sleeper, the best fantasy league platform out there. You put your puck or your ball knowledge to the test by picking whether your favorite or least favorite players will have more or less than their projected stats each week. In just a minute, we're going to turn it over to John for his always scintillating picks for Game 3. But before we do, the more picks you combine with Sleeper, the more you can win, all the way up to 100 times your money. Sleeper keeps you in the loop with instant alerts for breaking news and major injuries. Stay ahead of the game and keep track of league updates in real time so you're always informed and ready to outsmart your friends. If you think you have what it takes, new users can download the Sleeper app and use the code DLLS Stars to get $55 in free entries when you place a $5 contest. Apply it at any time. Any contest doesn't have to be your first. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. And here's John.
And I am back in the saddle again, and I am not the only one loose. The Moose will be loose in Dallas today as well. Let's take mikkorantanen to record more than 1.5 points.
Woo!
As Luds is about to go over in the next segment, Jake Oettinger might be seeing some shots today. So we're going to take Otter to record more than 25.5 saves. We'll ride Esa Lindell, of course, more than 2.5 block shots. And round it out, you got to get a Jets player on the board here. Dylan Samberg, let's take him to record at less than 2.5 block shots. $10 wins the people $122.14, gentlemen.
How about that? John going is big. He's swinging for the fences. He's not just trying to curl it around Pesky's pole. He's trying to hit it over the bullpens. You got to know if you know. Anyway, Luds, let's talk about Pete DeBoer because we have talked about this a lot. He and Paul Maurice are really good friends, and they came up together. Paul Maurice is credited with a big part of why Pete is a hockey coach today and in the NHL, but starting even in juniors. They are almost the polar opposite personality-wise. They are very different. Maurice may be the best guy on the mic in press conferences in the league, although for different reasons, Bruce Cassidy is also a fascinating interview. He really gets into details and really says a lot. But Maurice is about as funny as it gets. He's entertaining. And I'm not saying that Pete's not funny, but I'm just saying that he's not Paul Maurice. He's his own personality, and things are different. So sometimes when he laughs, it's not because he's making a joke. It's sort of brushing off something a little bit more serious. Well, after Game 2, things were a little more serious, as you can see here in this question.
Clearly, don't need you to tell us what you need to do to solve the problem, but when your team is in a position where when the team's in a position where most of them trying to break out of their own zone is flipping it to center ice and trying to get out of that, what can be done to maybe get cleaner zone exits and more possession of the puck?
You thought that was our problem? Maybe you should apply for the coaching job.
I'm not trying to apply for the okay, how do you solve flipping the puck to center ice?
Next question. Go ahead. Next question. Any non-coaches in here?
All right, Luds, aside the obvious awkward exchange there.
He seemed a little different shade of red from the beginning to the end of that to me.
A little flush.
Brightening up a little bit.
Why is Pete so upset with that question or the way that which that reporter brought up that topic?
Oh, and by the way, I think there's a little John Tortorella in there. Next question. Well, it obviously hit a nerve, right? And it's frustrating when you can't do the things throughout games that you've been able to do for 2 years, 3 years, or just this past season. And there's a reason. It's because you're playing against a really good team. And what they do, and we've got some shots here we can show you, there's something called a tight gap. Now, again, the Winnipeg club is moving from right to left, and Dallas is trying to break out here. Well, what happens is you can see here the player on the blue line is actually a defenseman, and the player in the middle of the screen, you can only see one leg, that's another defenseman. And so that gap is tight. And then you go to the next one, John, and it just follows the same pattern. Now, this is the same, it's the Duchesne line, the same line, but you can see where there's, and you can barely see it on the right-hand side, there's another defenseman stick over there. Look at that gap there. And we've seen times going into the offensive zone for the Jets that where Dallas's defenseman may be standing at the top of the circles at sometimes, especially against Colorado. But the bottom line is what's happening in all these clips here that we're looking at is, look at this now. Now, this is at the offensive blue line. That gap is perfect from the standpoint for a defenseman. There's not a lot of space and time. And another characteristic, it's the third blue player, which is Winnipeg, coming back into the zone. They always have backside pressure, and they take time and space away. Here's another look through the neutral zone. This is why Pete is frustrated. It's probably a really good question, right? And we've seen them try to use that whole flipper play, but there's not a lot of time to do that right now, especially deep trying to break out. And then with gaps like this, it makes it more difficult for them to spring people like they have all season long. But there's a reason that this Winnipeg Jet team were number one in the NHL. They play well in all three zones.
Pete said after game 2, in spite of yelling at reporters, he felt like they started to open up some transition in the second period and get some chances. Clearly at 5-on-5, Dallas didn't give up a whole lot. I thought that it was, I mean, my numbers, whether you care of them or not, were pretty low for 5-on-5 for the Jets, but they were feasting on the power play. Well, there's another question that takes us into penalties that Mike Heika asked at the end of this. It wasn't a very long post-game media session, but listen to Pete's reply to this question about the penalty issue in the first couple games of this series and beyond.
We've talked a lot about penalties the last however many, 10, 15 games. We haven't really talked about the last 3 years. So
Yeah.
how do you fix that? And is it something in your DNA that you can fix?
I mean, that's we can talk about it. We talk about it, but you know that's in our dressing room. They've got to grab the importance of that and realize it and fix it.
That, to me, Luds, says he's been saying that to the players. The players are the ones that have to take it to heart.
He said that for the players to hear it.
Yeah.
What is he going to do? I mean, they have a way they kill penalties. They have a way they go on the power play. They've been doing it all year long. But the best way is let's start staying out of the box, right? I mean, this team, the Dallas team, was getting about 2.7 power plays, giving power plays, I should say, shorthanded per game during the course of the regular season. Now, through 9 games, they've been shorthanded 31 times, and they're at 3.8. So, you know, that's where that number, you know, but again, it has a lot to do with the opponents. I mean, Colorado's a fast team. They can get you out of position. You're chasing back. Some of the penalties we complain about are because of those reasons, as they're chasing back, the tripping, the holding, they're out of position. And we've got, you know, speaking of that, we've got some examples, the difference of the penalty kills. And this one here is the Dallas penalty kill. And I just want you to look where the two Dallas forwards are, how high they are in the zone. Like they like to put pressure. And so this first one, you can see where there's a lot of empty space in here. Next one, John. Now they're a little bit tighter here, right? Now go to the next one right away. Now look, I believe this is wide over here on the bottom of the screen up top here. Look how high Wyatt is. Now look at all of that ice in the middle of the zone. And Wyatt, the puck is actually on the other side of the ice. He comes all the way out to the defenseman, opens up some lanes in there. And we go to the next one. Now all of a sudden what happens, another get up high, all the space you can see, all the white ice. Then we go to the next one, and now all of a sudden what you see, because they press out like this, they just created a 3-on-2 down low. And they're trying to either come off the goal line or go across the crease, which Jake has done a good job taking that pass away. But you can see where it makes it a little more difficult. Now, on the other side of things, what happens with Winnipeg, they keep everything tight. This is as high as they'll ever get. There's a lot of space here. If this was Dallas, we'd see somebody 2 feet from that defenseman right now. Now, then we go again. Everybody in blue jerseys are all below, and they're trying to get this one, feed this one to the slot. Well, there's no time there. That play isn't available anymore. Now, again, that's all the higher they're going right now. Now they're inside the top of the circle. Look at in front of the net. There's nobody from the standpoint of a green and white jersey. There's nobody there. Same thing here. This was a shot. That's a shot that came from the point. Easy save for Hellebuyck. Same thing here. Now, what we're talking about here is this shot that comes in from here, and you can see Hellebuyck just looking, nobody there, time and space, and all this other kind of things. It's just a difference in the way they kill. And what's open is a pass across to the left-hand side. Now, that's not a dangerous chance from there.
So let me ask you this. The Stars penalty kill has been very successful during the playoffs, and during the regular season, they were arguably one of the best. They dropped a little bit in the last couple of games of the season, but their personnel was changed, whatever. They seem to be okay allowing a shooter to get the puck on the goal line extended past the right post, right side of the crease, and with Jake on that post and trying to deny the pass across rather than trying to put pressure on that guy. Against Colorado, it was either Natchez or McKinnon on the left side down there below the circle near the goal line. But they felt like that was, you're going to have to give up something on a penalty kill because you don't have 5 players on the ice to cover. That's an acceptable area for them versus something either backdoor or in that bumper in the slot. Your thoughts?
I don't know if it's acceptable to them. It's a result of how they kill. Because you can see if you go back to any of the setups that we showed with the Jets, they wouldn't allow that because there's 4 guys down low. What happens is if they want to transfer down low to that guy on the goal line and move to him, because the 2 forwards are up so high, there's somebody open in the slot. So now you're taking away the slot, and they're basically saying, we're going to let Jake take that shot. And they've taken 4 or 5 chances
Yes.
there. And, it's probably, was it Kyle Connor a lot of times that comes off?
Connor
there?
or Ehlers, I think, have been down there in the corner.
The thing is they're getting so many looks at that. I have a bad feeling that they're going to find one of them holes because they're going to keep looking. They're going to say,
so far, Jake has snuffed them all out.
He has.
Yeah.
He's done, and all he does is he just holds the post.
Right.
What you're worried about is them threatening to go up there like they do, and Jake kind of bites on that a second and then pull it back and then go far side on the ice. So, but again, everybody's looking at it from both sides of the team. They're looking at everything, but if they're okay giving that up, they feel that that's okay, then that's what they're going to do. I prefer having more bodies down there in the high danger area, and we've seen some goals that were scored from down there.
What about so obviously from a special team standpoint, that's been a problem. Even if they've done well with the penalty kill overall, Winnipeg's had too many opportunities. That goes back to our conversation about discipline and not taking some of those high sticking penalties, maybe the tripping or hooking stuff. They're trying to clean that up. What about 5-on-5? What are you seeing in and around each other team's nets and what you like or don't like seeing?
Well, it's pretty much what we were talking about with Winnipeg. You see this a lot from them. And look at how they seal out. I mean, again, Hellebuyck, clear vision to this shot. Here's a chance. This is as close as Dallas got, but the problem is you've got to get pucks off your stick early because you've got people getting in lanes. But now all of a sudden you get this off, there's nobody. The defensemen do a great job. Nobody's in front of them. Another one. Get the shot out, tops of the circles. People are holding up on the outside. Hellebuyck gets a save on this one because there's nobody in front of the net. Okay? This is what happens with the Jets. This was a chance on Jake, but I just want you to count the jerseys. And what happened, and you can see, I'm not even sure who this is with the Dallas Stars jersey. I don't know if it's Granlund or Dodonov, but somebody here that's skating away from the front of the net. We don't stop at the front of the net. You see at whistles, there's usually a bunch of jerseys standing in front of the net.
It's a right-handed shot. It almost looks like Wyatt.
Well, and it could be. I couldn't tell it because it was a little blurry.
It's hard to see.
But that shot just got there, and now there's a whistle. But just stay there because that's what Winnipeg does. They stay there. This is what it looks like at the other end of the rink that Jake has to deal with. There's bodies here in front of the net. You see 3 jerseys, and you see 1 jersey next to the goaltender that's got a Dallas Stars logo on it. That's the way they play the game. This is a page that they need to take out of the Winnipeg book and get it down to the other end of the rink. I mean, there's been, what's he had? Three road games Hellebuyck has had. His save percentages against St. Louis are .783, .722, and .760.
Pulled in all 3.
Okay, what was that now?
That's part of that song.
Which song?
The one that Winnipeg released their playoff song.
Oh, my God. That one?
That one.
The one in the locker room?
The one in the locker room.
Yeah, I sent a message to Trump. I said, seriously, if you're thinking about including Canada and the United States, just watch this ad.
Leave that video out.
This is what you'd have to deal with these people. So anyway, that's my thing is I think they need to don't make this. Hellebuyck was really good in Winnipeg. He was good.
He was.
And that's at home.
He was really good.
But I think you have to find ways to make it more difficult. I think that coming off that last series, his teammates bailed him out in the last 2 minutes. He owes it to that team. I think he's getting better. We'll see how he does on the road, but let's make it difficult for him here.
Lastly, obviously they have home ice advantage. So for all these details, and we're talking about how we didn't like some things from game 2, they won game 1, mission accomplished. They now have home ice advantage, but they have to take advantage of it by winning at home, something they've been really good at in this playoffs, a lot better than last year. However, one player that seems to have been receiving a lot of criticism in the last couple games is Jamie Benn. What can he do to get his game right without not boiling over and taking one of those really bad penalties that we've seen a couple of times in the past?
Yeah, I think Jamie's got to play on the edge. I don't think Jamie's should play the game where he's worried about taking one of those penalties. He knows where the line is. And again, I think you get a good read. Jamie's been around for a long time. He's got a good read and get the temperature of the game. But Jamie has to be the guy. For me, all those things I talked about in front of the net, he should be carrying the flag. He should be leading the charge to the front of Hellebuyck. Don't bump into him. Don't take a penalty, but get right on top of that. And then I think everybody else will follow. But Jamie's how he contributes to me in a game like this is by playing in straight lines. Pucks go in. He finishes a check. He gets to the front of the net. He comes back. He finishes checks on the wall. Then I think the crowd gets into it. I think that the simpler it is for him, and I think especially for Pete and Jamie, if Jamie has a few of those shifts early, you keep on rolling him, and you watch his minutes because he's not 25. We know that. But Jamie's got to play on the edge.
Lastly, just because I want to give you a little tap on the ego, Allie, as a Canadian in the chat, she said, as a Canadian, I just all capped howled laughing at Lud's joke about the president and the song in Canada and all that fun. Yeah. So
Allie,
it was appreciated.
I feel for you. I'd be changing my citizenship right now.
Well, that does it for our pregame show. And on what a note to say so long for now. Thank you for watching on Victory Plus and, of course, on YouTube. A big thank you to our presenting sponsors, Bud Light and Happiest Hour. Luds and I, with Sam Remote and Sean Remote, will be here for the postgame show. And, of course, our illustrious producer, John Andersen, will be keeping everything going for the postgame show after Game 3, which starts in just a little while.
It's right here today.
It's time for Moose Mode. Thanks for watching here on DLLS.
I believe that they are going to crush these guys tonight.
We all silly like the mayor.